What's up, everybody? We're back with another video. This one's probably going to be a little bit longer than my other ones recently, mainly because this week we're going through the seasonal activities and creating a tier list of them. As we all know, Destiny is no stranger to seasonal activities, as we've had them in the game since December 4th, 2018. Since then, there have been a multitude of different type of activities, ranging from 1, 3, 4, and even 6 players being required. Today, I'm going over a tier list of all the seasonal activities I've had the pleasure to play. Starting first, we have the honorable mention of Escalation Protocol. While this wasn't initially a seasonal activity and more of just a special destination activity, I would say in today's current game, it would have been considered one. This was such a big step into somewhat of the right direction for Destiny and Bungie, since it was closer to the first true Horde mode that many players have been asking for since the release of Prison of Elders back in Destiny 1. While it was that big step forward, there were so many issues. The first one was that it's set up within the open world as a special public event, meaning that getting into a good instance with multiple players tended to take more time than the actual activity. The other is that it was designed to be an endgame mode, meaning that you had to be at max power level to even get close to the boss fight. But even then, that was difficult for even the most high tier players, leading a lot of the community to use an instance glitch just to get 9 players within the same space. I probably would give this a D, but mainly due to the issues. But since it started the spearhead into the seasonal activities, it's not an F. Now we jump into the true ones. Forges. I enjoyed Forges for quite a while after the release, mainly due to the fact that seasonal activities were new and exciting. While the initial release was a little disappointing, having to grind out old content to even be close enough in power level to actually do damage to activities. Luckily, Bungie did change that relatively fast, so you didn't have to get as much power. I'm rating this as a C, due to an average activity that was the same thing again and again, with the only true difference being the arenas. Also, having unreliable ball throws was very annoying. The next one here is a little interesting. We have Gambit Prime and Reckoning. As an overall mode, I would give Gambit Prime an A, due to the fact that it was able to expand upon normal Gambit, but should not have been the main focus of the season, as many players don't like Gambit. For that, it moves to a D. Reckoning was just a train wreck. Matchmaking after each round was garbage, since it's kept you in the same instance. The first arena itself wasn't bad at all due to the Horde mode aspect with random spawns in a boss fight, but the bridge, where Bungie had to specifically break their own design rules to make it difficult, was over the top. Considering when Tier 3 was mainly the only way people would play it, your run was done before the bridge if you didn't have a well, a bubble titan, and a tether hunter to keep everyone safe. The end boss fights were, cool and fairly unique. I did like the environment and lore implications that came with the Reckoning due to the 9, but the gameplay was not there for me. For that, this also gets a D. Menagerie. The literal best thing that has ever been in Destiny per the community. Having multiple different mini missions to the point where it was damn near impossible to have the same match back to back. While there were a few that I didn't like due to the design, I didn't mind due to not having to worry about them all the time. Also, having a rotating boss each week that had different mechanics was also nice and refreshing, but mainly the loot. Being able to pick and choose what you loot that we wanted in a more complex way was exciting. And at the time, it was something that Bungie was never doing. Also, when Bungie allowed for multiple drops to happen at once, since they had to fix the bug that was found early on, was kind of nice. I don't have much to talk about with this since everyone's kind of given their opinion on Menagerie already. I'll give this one an S. Vex Offensive. One that was hated by the majority of the community for a reason that I'm honestly not sure of. Most likely due to the fact that we had just had Menagerie, so players were expecting something similar to that since they were both the 6-man activities. But I'm happy it wasn't. It allows for something different instead. While Vex did have similar vibes due to the multiple rounds, it was fine because it felt like the Horde mode a little bit more than the Menagerie due to less tasks. The biggest disappointment was the boss fights though. It was all the same. It didn't even change the mechanics when it came down to the Undying Mind, which was sad, and the loot wasn't much better. I'll give this one a B, since personally I did have fun with it, and the arena was beautiful, but the lack of loot and the boss fights just weren't enough. Sundial. Pretty much a worse Menagerie. I don't think Bungie had enough time to change this activity by the time they'd gotten feedback on Menagerie, so it was already in development, but damn, I wish it could have gotten changed. The lore behind it was absolutely phenomenal. The gameplay though, not so much. Having 3 arenas and cycling between 2 and then the boss fight in the same arena was annoying because it left the activity being very, very repetitive. And for some reason, it seemed like players were having a very hard time grasping onto mechanics. One thing that was nice, again, was having bosses with different mechanics. But again, it was in the same space, so that was, nothing special. Also, having the ability to choose your loot was nice, but it was more of a shame since we couldn't necessarily refine it a little bit more. This one, I have in the script here a D. I think I'm actually going to change it to a C. It was average. Oh god. Seraph Towers. Oh god, no. 100% the worst seasonal activity, I'd say. A public event that had awful matchmaking, where it was pretty hard to even get 2 people in the same encounter. I did like the enemy density of the activity, but there were too many issues other than the matchmaking. Teleporting enemies were consistent the whole time. The ball throwing mechanic seemed to have different physics than previous, and the difficulty. When it changed into heroic events, players couldn't even finish the activity due to the difficulty and enemy density. Also, players just ran around and killed stuff and didn't even try to do the objective. This had a lot of potential due to the Rasputin story and the bunker aspect, but nothing could have saved this, and I'm so glad it's gone. This is an F. 100%. Contact. Contact did scare me at first due to all the issues that the Seraph Towers had, but honestly, didn't really have any of those. The matchmaking was fixed. Teleporting enemies, while it still exists, it wouldn't make you fail, and no balls to throw. Unfortunately, it did have the moats like Gambit, which meant the moat pickup was a little wonky, and I have a feeling that will never change, and I'm going to the floor and all that junk. The story implications was nice, and the ability to have it on 2 different locations but in different areas was huge to give some change to scenery each week. It also brought back the idea of different bosses with their own mechanic, which was welcomed back wholeheartedly, but again, players seem to not get the boss fight mechanics. I'll give this one a C since it wasn't anything revolutionary or overly exciting. Hunts. Oh yeah, did I say Seraph Towers were the worst? I'd say hunts are tied to it. The story came out of left field, the activity took like 5 minutes to finish, and it didn't really allow for much repeatability. Yes, it did come out alongside Beyond Light, but it honestly feels like it was half-assed or just left till the end. The only good thing that came from it was being able to pick which hunt you wanted to do to get which loot once they were all released. I honestly don't have much to say about this one. Still all fresh in our minds. This one, fat F as well. Battlegrounds. I enjoyed Battlegrounds quite a bit, some more than others, mainly due to the location, but gameplay was fun. Huge enemy density like we had never seen before. I definitely want more of that. But it was still on the simpler side to allow other players to not have an issue trying to figure out what to do. Hammer Charge brought back the aspect kind of skeleton keys from D1 strikes, of being able to have extra loot, which was exciting, but you didn't get to choose your loot. It was all up to the luck of the draw, which I'm honestly more okay with that at this point, just to have the excitement of good drops. The story was definitely interesting and kept me hooked the entire time. And while they weren't super long, they did feel like the perfect length, and you couldn't melt the boss, which was fantastic. That has been something I've been wanting again for quite a long time. I'll give this one an A, mainly for the enemy density. I'd say if the first component didn't take so long, probably be an S. Alright, now we're into Override. This feels very much like Contact, just with some slight changes. It's not a public event, which is nice, but it's still playing Gambit. I do like the different areas, but wish they were in a playlist, so I'm not stuck with the same one, which leads to faster burnout. Story at this point is fun and exciting, allowing for a small jumping part before the boss fight was actually nice to see, just for something new. And while the boss fights were in the same room all 3 weeks, they did have slightly different mechanics, which was welcoming. Override kept a similar system of loot compared to Battlegrounds, but was just in a different format to gain charges. I give this a B. It's better than some, but I'm personally done with playing Gambit out in the wild, and after having the enemy density that Battlegrounds offered, it was honestly disappointing to see that go down. That one, it looks like, oh, I did give it a B. There we go, it's a B. Honestly, I had a lot of fun making this video because it allowed me to kind of take a trip down memory lane and relive some of the activities that I had forgotten about and some that I wish I could just forget about altogether. But that is all I have for today's video. I'm planning on doing something like this for like all NPC characters as well. My personal opinion on them and how I feel about them. But make sure to leave a like and hit that subscribe button if you did enjoy the video. Leave a comment down below about what your favorite or least favorite seasonal activity has been. Till next time, stay safe, Guardians.